Now, London's producing more rubbish than it can process. The gap is growing and there are ambitious targets to end household waste going to landfill by 2025 and to double the average recycling rate by 2031. New facilities are needed to get on top of the problem, but are rarely popular with the locals, as Steve Tolley reports.
What do you do when your voters produce 850,000 tonnes of rubbish every year? The North London Waste Authority's plan was to sort out what could be recycled at a new facility here at Pinkham Way and then burn the rest as fuel. The £3.5 billion plan would have processed rubbish from Waltham Forest, Camden, Enfield, Barnet, Haringey, Hackney and Islington for 30 years. But it's now been shelved at a cost of £20 million.
This is a massive exercise in logistics, in financing and in technology. So you're going to spend the right amount of money to get the right and proper information to ensure that you can make a sound decision.
The authority says the plan was dropped because local planning changes over the summer now mean it's more likely to be able to replace this 1970s incinerator in Edmonton and save £900 million. But the Pinkham Way Alliance has long warned about the cost and, along with its political supporters, says the whole process has been badly handled.
I think so far it's been a terrible waste of taxpayers' money, and personally it seems to me it would be much better spent if they thought about some more futuristic technology.
The authority paid £12 million for the Pinkham Way site, which is also a site for nature conservation. And campaigners say they will not let it become an industrial site while other options exist.
Jim Fitzpatrick, has the whole process been a waste of time and money?
Well, listening to Clyde Locks on the interview, clearly an assessment's been made. As I understand it, the money spent has identified exactly what could or couldn't be done. The alternative plan, which has now been adopted, they say is going to save £900 million. In these austere times, I don't think that's a very difficult question for local authorities to conclude.
All right, Bob, the life of the incinerator in Edmonton's been extended. New incinerator in Sutton has recently been given the go-ahead. Is that the right way to deal with the waste issues that Londoners are going to be facing?
The waste issues are difficult ones. I remember going back to years ago when I was on a waste authority, heaven help me.
Lucky old you.
I got the expert.
Oh, yeah. Good. I'm glad he is.
I used to get all the fun jobs in those days, but it's a serious issue because we're talking about multi-billion-pound investments and serious environmental health and other issues. I think my concern about this is I think making best use of the incinerator is good. The Mayor, I think, has salvaged the good news from what was potentially a bad news story because he is now working with the Waste London Authority to make sure that that Edmonton plant is going to be delivering low cost and low carbon heat to homes and businesses in the surrounding area. So we've got something good out of it. I'm not convinced that it needed 5 years and about £20 million of abortive expenditure to get to where we are.
Not good value for money, perhaps, then, at the end of it. But Jim Fitzpatrick, the GLA's London Waste and Recycling Board says there will be 4 million tonnes of rubbish that the city will not have the infrastructure to deal with in 2015. That's a crisis waiting to happen, isn't it?
It's an absolute indictment, and we need to get on top of that. The Mayor certainly needs to get on top of it. Well, and this, as you've described, it was taking 5 years to come to a conclusion, partly because legislation was changing, partly because the Mayor's planning policy was changing, and partly because of the campaigns that have been launched in terms of different options.
Sure, but what would you do now?
Well, what I would do, I'm backbench MP sitting on the opposition benches. Government have got to make sure that the regulations are there. Boris has got to get his finger out and make sure that the GLA delivers in line with the London Waste Authorities. This is a disaster waiting to happen, and at this time in the 21st century, the fact that we're going to have 4 million tonnes extra waste is just unacceptable.
Let's leave it there. Now, it's time for the rest of